Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if this is the first video that you're watching. This channel is called Poetry and Prose Adventures, and last video I did was my summer reading list, and today I'm gonna do a book review. I finished Helter Skelter and I thought about doing a book review, and then I realized I needed time to think after that. So I don't know if I'm going to do a book review on Helter Skelter. It's pretty much self-explanatory. It's true crime. It's about Charles Manson and Charles Manson's wives slash girlfriends slash his family. And it's a very intense book, but it's very good. And there's just like not much to review. Like, it's a true crime book. It's written very well. And it explains the story from start to finish very well. So to me, that's like, it's like watching a documentary and reviewing a documentary, Like, I don't know. It was good. It was really good. It's a solid book, but I'm not gonna write a book review about it or record one because it's just not something I really want to do. I'd rather do a book review on the novels that I'm reading, and then for the true crime books, like Mindhunter, I'll probably do a review on later. I'm kind of sick after the true crime thing, so until I get over that, I won't have a review of that up. But, so I finished Helter Skelter, and then I finished Joyland by Stephen King over this past weekend. So, and it's Wednesday, July 9th. So I finished it over the 4th of July weekend, and it was really, really good. I have my notes here. They're kind of all messed up, but I really, really enjoyed this book. This is probably one of my favorite Stephen King books that I have read, and was quick enough and not too graphic so that I, wouldn't read it quickly, So he wrote this. It was published in 2013, and in my opinion, it's a mix of horror, thriller, adventure, love, heartbreak, and it's a coming-of-age story. So the main character is figuring out who he is and why growing up is so important. There's also like a little bit of mystery, and there's like a whole whodunit kind of aspect to it. The suspense builds and builds and builds until like the last 40 pages of the book when the entire story unfolds. So love Stephen King for that. It's a summer book. It's set in the summer of 1973, and the main character works at an amusement park, and I'll get into all of that later. But it's a summer-based book, which is one of the reasons why I got it, because I wanted like a summer horror, summer thriller vibe going on this year before the fall. I also would love to know why a movie hasn't been made about it. The book came out 12 years ago, and nobody's bothered to make a movie out of it. Like, that's so... it should be a movie, and it would be such a good selling movie, in my opinion. So, going into, like, the plot of the book, Devin is the protagonist, and he works at an amusement park in North Carolina. It's his summer job. He finished his freshman year of college. His girlfriend broke up with him. Not in a nice way either. Like, it was pretty much like, I have a job here and you have a job there, and I'm not going to come see you when I have the chance to see you. And so it was kind of just like one of those relationships where he was so madly in love with her. She ends up cheating on him, and he's heartbroken. He finds out later on that, like, she cheated on him. And then, like, he's like, well, this job is gonna, like, distract me from my current situation, and I just want to, like, not think about this for a while. Which is kind of ironic, and I'll get into that in a little bit, because the book is titled Joyland. He's working as an amusement park worker in Joyland, and I find what happens, as well as, like, the title, to be ironic. There's, like, this whole... like Joyland, you're thinking sunshine, butterflies, rainbows, kids laughing, families having a good time, people making jokes, people riding rides and winning prizes in an amusement park. And then there's like this whole murder mystery going on underneath, and a murderer that works in the park. And I think I just spoiled that for you. it's kind of predictable, but anyways, like the irony is definitely there, you know? So he starts working at this amusement park, and one of the veteran workers tells him, like, oh, there's this whole mystery. Nobody knows how it happened. This girl was murdered in the horror house, and the horror house is like a 9-minute ride. It's like the makeout spot of the amusement park, right? Because it's like kid-based, so then the teenagers are going into the horror house. It's like your typical, like, teenage novel, you know what I mean? So, girl's murdered. He's told about it on his first day. And he's like, what? No way. Like, maybe I could solve it while I'm here. Why not, you know? So then him and his friends that he meets at the amusement park at Joyland, they work with him. They're in the same group together. They end up, like, trying to solve the murder. They end up going over to the horror house at some point. And then, like, they kind of, like, don't really talk about it for a while because it was, like, scary. And they don't want to... They're processing what happened. And so then it's like, how many others were murdered? Was there a serial killer? Like, what are we really dealing with here in Joyland? So that's where, like, the irony also comes in, because the title is Joyland, and the background of the book is, like, not joyful whatsoever. Devin's going through this entire phase of his life where he's, like, trying to grow up, learning how to be a man. He's, like, 21 going on 22, which is, as everybody knows, in their early 20s, such a huge period of change, because your brain's developing, everything else is finishing developing. So he's got this whole, like, less than joyful situation. His mom died, his dad's, like, trying to make ends meet. It's kind of overall sad. Like, the background of the book is honestly kind of sad. And that's where I think the irony starts, and then the murder is talked about, and people are trying to figure out who did it and why. And then at the end of the book, which I'm not going to spoil for you, but at the end of the book, like, it's kind of like it all unfolds into this giant chaotic mess where it's like, why? What is your problem? I think the irony is like one of the biggest factors. So I think, like, as far as the message of the book goes, one of the main parts is that we all have to grow up. And is it easy? No. But some people have to grow up faster than others. And in Joyland, there's a 10-year-old boy who has what Stephen King calls, well, in all of his books, Stephen King's characters, some of them have what's called the sight. It's like a sixth sense kind of thing, where their intuition is, like, vibrating all the way up here, and normal people's is, like, down here. And the kid is 10, and he has the sight, and he has to be grown up because he's sick, and he's basically dying. And his mom is, like, unaccepting of the fact, and then there's Devin, who's like, he'll get better, and it's like this false sense of hope where things are going to get better, but then you also have to accept the fact that, like, things don't always get better, especially in life. Like, we're not promised a happy life. Like, things happen, and yes, people are happy, but then bad things happen, and it's like, well, why do bad things always happen? But it's like, that's life. There's a balance, you know, there's a yin-yang to it, and there's a yin-yang to the story as well. The plot line was so good. From the introduction to the end of the book, felt like I was reading a best friend's memoir of a summer, or, like, asking my dad or a grandpa or a grandma, like, what was the summer like of 1973? Can you tell me about that? And it's like, oh yeah, I worked at an amusement park. Like, it felt like I was reading somebody's memories, you know? So that was really, really cool. As far as character development goes, Devin's growth as the story develops is just so good. Like, he starts out as this naive, like, 20-year-old, 21-year-old whose heart is broken, and he just is like, I don't know what to do with my life. I hate everything. Like, first love, first heartbreak. We all know how that is. He, like, over the time frame of about 6 to 8 months that happens in the book, he's, like, maturing, and he's figuring out how to take care of other people. He's figuring out how to take care of himself. He's figuring out how to set boundaries and learning how to love people after his heart was broken. And I think, like, he is one of the most dimensional characters in the book. Like, I think Stephen King does a really good job at creating 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional characters in his books, and some characters are 3-dimensional, some are 2-dimensional, and you have to, like, kind of really pay attention to see who's who and what's what when it comes to his stories, because sometimes you'll think a character is 2-dimensional and they really end up being 3-dimensional, and vice versa. So I found that to be really interesting, is, like, you see this, like, kind of man with a little child mindset of, like, how did I get here? How do I grow up? Like, this isn't the life that I was expecting. This didn't go my way, and now I'm mad about it. To life isn't always what you think it's going to be, and you're not always promised, like, the greatest of things, but there's a journey that happens, and the people that you meet along the way are usually the best people that you could find in your life, you know? So it's definitely, like, very bittersweet, if that makes sense. And so, like, the 10-year-old, like, teaches Devin all these life lessons, and this 10-year-old is, like, half his age. So I found it to be just the way that Stephen King wrote the characters and their interactions and how they communicate with one another and how they learn and how they grow. I just thought that this was, like, such a good setup for such a good story. There were parts that were funny. There were parts that were really sad. There were parts that, like, kind of made you, like, want to fall in love again, you know? Like, it just felt like I was 17 years old working in an amusement park with my best friends, you know? So, I highly recommend, if you haven't read any of Stephen King's books, I would say you could start with this one, because he has his entire universe, you know, of people with the sight and their psychic abilities and stuff. But I think starting with this one, like, you're introduced to the sight, you're introduced to the characters at a very easy pace. You're not, like, just smacked. Like, okay, if you were to start The Shining, like, The Shining was your first Stephen King book, it was mine, it's more challenging. So if you haven't read Stephen King, if you're interested in reading a book that's, like, summer-based, not really horror, not really thriller, but, like, kind of a combination of anything. Like, it's a summer book, you know? Like, anything can happen in the summer. I definitely recommend reading Joyland. I think it's a great book. It's an easy book to read. So, that's my book review. I'm excited to do the next video for you guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.